What's up, everybody? Coming to you live from my parents' house. We got episode 30. 30! Yes, the Dirty 30, episode 30 of the Changavi Show. For those of you that are new, welcome. My name is Anuj. Last name is on the fucking show, so you should probably know it by now. No. Very glad you guys decided to join me today on this beautiful night. Appreciate you all that are listening to me from wherever you are in the world and from whatever platform that you may be using. Got a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. How am I doing? Let's do this real quick because I got to get into an update because we've had a lot of stories we've covered here on the Changavi Show, so we got a lot of updates to get through. But how am I, Anuj Changavi, doing right now as of this week? What's the vibe? Well, it's spring break. So, can't complain too much. Life is pretty good. It's been it's been kind of the same grind, to be honest, on the show. I've been doing a lot of working on just the kinks of it, trying to evaluate, like, where can I gain an audience? How can I start to build a good community out here, because I feel like I'm making good content. I feel like I'm making content that people like because I get affirmation from people in my DMs or through other various forms of communication saying that they appreciated a certain thing. So now it's the question of, like, how can I take that and turn it into a community? That is the next question. That is the essential question for you old people out there that have been listening to this show for a long time. But other than that, I mean, life is pretty decent. I personally cannot complain as to how life has been going as of the last couple weeks. Been pretty anxious about the future, but I feel like that's relatively normal for me. So I've been dealing with that. I've noticed, though, since September of last year, I haven't missed a week where I haven't uploaded something. So I've been at this pretty hard, which is pretty impressive. I haven't missed a single week. I've uploaded at least one piece of content to Spotify since September of last year. So that is pretty impressive if I say so myself. So I'd like to pat myself on the back for that one. But yeah, so that's what's happening with me. But no one wants to sit here and listen to me. Otherwise, they would have listened to the Changavi After Show, which I recorded yesterday. Which, by the way, this is a callback from the Changavi After Show. So if you really listened to a specific part of the After Show, you know exactly why I'm wearing this flannel today. You know exactly why. The answer is in the After Show. So go look for it. Go look for what I sociologically talk about, this beautiful shirt right here, and how in the early 2010s, it shifted brown boy fashion forever. Forever? Yes, forever. But anyway, let's move on because no one wants to hear you talk about your stupid fucking show all day, Anuj. Talk about the actual issues. So let's do it. Okay. So we've covered a lot of stories here on the Changavi Show, right? I'm talking everything from sports to pop culture to actual news events. And this is the 30th one. This is the Chef Curry number 30, the Dirty 30. So we've done a lot. And frankly, there have been a lot of issues that have really gotten a lot of attention from particular demographics of my audience. And this hijab row issue was one of those issues that really attracted a large majority of people to the conversation. They started talking to me. They started saying that, oh, hijab row, this, that, and the other. There's been a lot going on in regards to this issue. And there's some people that are like, why are you talking about this? Like, obviously, like I said, so let me backtrack for a second. Hold on. So when I first put this topic out about hijab row, I believe it was on like episode 23 or 24. I got a little bit of backlash from people. A lot of people, because this is taking place in my parents' home state of Karnataka. There were a few people that came in my DMs and said, why are you talking like this about your home country or your parents' home country? Like, you shouldn't be saying this stuff. It was pretty negative. I was very negative, vocally negative on Narendra Modi, on the BJP, on the way that they've handled the situation in Karnataka. And I will continue to be negative about that. But I just want everyone to know that I've gotten a little bit of backlash on that from other people as well. not just on Instagram, but on TikTok, on other platforms. There has been a lot of negativity towards my Indian political content in particular, from like direct relatives of mine and people in my family. There's been a lot of negativity towards this issue. But let's talk about it for a second, because listen, hijab row, there's been a lot that's happening. And the way we left the story off last time, or the way I left it off, was I said that it basically nothing was going to happen unless the Karnataka High Court made a decision, which is like the equivalent of like a state court in America, right? So like if the California state court hasn't said anything, then nothing is going to happen. Well, the Karnataka state court did say something. And basically they upheld the decision that was being made in these colleges or in these high schools for American terms, which is you should not wear the hijab when entering a classroom to take an exam or to even just like participate in education. So they upheld that decision. And listen, that's obviously going to cause a pretty emotional reaction in a lot of people. But I guess the good news is that there are a lot of Muslim advocacy groups and a lot of Muslim people who have brought this issue and are trying to bring it to the Indian Supreme Court. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. So, I mean, like I said, we talked about how Indian politics tends to be very supportive of Hindus, which is true. And let me kind of refresh you on what's going on hijab row for a second too, because what's happening, like I said, is that Muslim girls are basically feeling ostracized in that they aren't allowed to wear the hijab in educational institutions throughout Karnataka. And there were a lot of protests in the street, a lot of counter protests from Hindus, a lot of protests from Muslims. And eventually it got so bad that the Karnataka chief minister had to shut down high schools in Karnataka, in the state of Karnataka, for 3 days. So there's a lot of tension going on. A lot of people were talking about it. It was kind of a big deal, but the high court hadn't done anything. So nothing really was getting done theoretically in terms of everything that was going on. So here's the thing now is that the high court upheld the college's decision, like I said, and there continues to be a lot of tension from Muslim girls and the Hindu population. It's that Muslim-Hindu divide and that struggle that we've seen throughout Indian history for many years take shape in another issue that's going on here with the hijab row. And unfortunately, I mean, you know where I stand. I have a clear opinion on this, but I don't want to provide that opinion. I want to educate you guys. It's a sad situation as to what's going on because people are getting hurt. It's not more so about this issue, but people are getting hurt on both sides. The protests have led to injuries and deaths, and that's not good. But here's the thing. I've been presented this counter argument by multiple people the last couple of days. Like I said, this is a topic that was met with a lot of negativity. It was something that really was presented to me the last couple of days. And basically what people told me was that the hijab really does represent a symbol of patriarchy. The hijab in the context of modern whatever we have going on here represents a lot of bad issues and represents a lot of patriarchal tensions with Muslim women in particular. And so that's the counter is like, oh, what? Why are you promoting that? But here's the thing, and this is why, and a lot of Hindu people in my life have said, Anuj, Hindu people have been banned from a lot of things in India. They've been banned from a lot of stuff in India. It's true, they have. But the people that quote this are saying that a lot of Hindus have banned things such as sati, such as widow balding, which is basically where they used to like shave the woman's head off, when the man passed away. That was banned back in the 80s or in the 70s, I believe. So some Hindu customs have been banned. But here's the thing. My response to that is very simple. You are arguing to me customs versus symbols. The hijab is a religious symbol. It is a symbol that is worn throughout the world by Muslim women. Yes, I understand the argument that a lot of Muslim communities force their women to wear the hijab. But at the end of the day, you cannot enforce in every single micro-Muslim community. As a government, you cannot enforce in every single micro-Muslim community for them to socially allow the women to make the right decision. The only thing that you can do is provide a choice. And India is a secular country. That is what is written in its constitution. It is written that they will tolerate every single religion practice, whether that be Christian, Sikh, Muslim, Hindu, which are the four majority religions in the country, and they will be tolerant of those things. And the fact is that the constitution is really being violated in Karnataka because of the fact that the colleges are not allowing Muslim women to wear the hijab. The hijab may have these connotations within Hindu or within Muslim society and throughout the world. There have been a lot of women that have protested against wearing the hijab. But at the end of here's the, I say at the end of the day, and here's the thing so much. But listen, seriously, the hijab, it should be a choice. If you want to wear it, wear the hijab. If you don't want to wear it, don't wear the hijab. And if your community is forcing you to wear it, there is nothing that anybody else can do to prevent that from happening. That is the reality of the situation. You cannot have the government monitor every single Muslim community and sub-community and, do all of that. It's just not feasible. And yes, it's symbol versus action, right? You look at sati. Sati, for those of you that don't know, in India is when it used to happen in Hindu religion in particular, is when the husband died, the woman would walk into the fire to join her husband, and basically she would burn to death. That was what sati was. So if Hindu people are saying, getting in my DMs and also talking to me in person and saying, yo, sati and widow balding are equivalent to wearing the hijab, I don't think so. In widow balding and in sati, you are harming individuals. You are harming a person. A person is dying, or a person is being harmed by their hair being taken out without their consent. There is harm being done. Someone wearing the hijab does not cause harm. And if it causes harm to you, then maybe there's some internal biases that you need to check. That is my opinion, but that's also the truth. If you are wearing the hijab and you feel harmed by that, that is a lot of internal that's some internal things that you need to work through personally as an individual. But I see the tension on the other side, right? Because it seems to be coming from this pro-Hindu crowd, and particularly in Karnataka, like I mentioned in the piece a few episodes ago, which, by the way, you should go check out if you're more interested in all the information. About 85% of people in Karnataka are Hindu. It's one of the most high Hindu majority states in all of India. And so, yeah, but okay. Let's get into the update, right? So the District Court of Karnataka upheld the decision. They basically said Muslim women are going to have to continue to not wear the hijab in educational institutions. But it has been brought to the attention of the Supreme Court of India. Unfortunately, though, the Supreme Court of India has continued to push the hearing, as they don't cite it as an urgent matter. They have it going through the traditional process, which takes quite a bit of time, like 6 to 8 months. As normal Supreme Court cases, even here in America, do. So it's going through the normal process, and they're not rushing this case. They're calling it media sensationalism, and they cited various things like the holy holiday that recently happened a couple of weeks ago for this issue not being important right now. Okay, listen. The Supreme Court of India is saying these things, but here are the stats. Here are these specific statistics, and you guys make your decision yourself. I don't want to get super conspiracy theory, but here's the fact of the Supreme Court of India. I did some research. The Supreme Court of India, in the history of India, has had like 15 to 17 Muslim judges. In a country that has a huge population of about 15% of its individuals identifying with Islam as their primary religion. Shouldn't there be more Muslim judges if 15% of the population in India, which, by the way, has over 1 billion people now, shouldn't there be more judges on the Supreme Court? Shouldn't there be more judges related to that? It's the same problem that America has with African Americans, but at least you're seeing that representation play out in front of you. You have Ketanji Brown Jackson, who's most likely going to be confirmed. You have Clarence Thomas, who is sitting on the court right now. You've had African American justices. You've had 15 in the history of India being an independent nation. I don't know, man. I don't know. And most of the judges that I could look at now and I could examine are Hindu. And so, listen, to them, this issue perhaps may not be pressing. But at the same time, I think it's an issue that's breaking the Constitution. So in my opinion, I believe that this is a huge violation of the Constitution and should be brought to the India Supreme Court immediately. I think so. And But yes, here's the thing. The way the court is viewing hijab row is really the way the broader government is also viewing hijab row. The BJP, Narendra Modi, and his whole government is basically trying to turn a blind eye to hijab row. Because let's be real, a lot of the BJP and a lot of Hindus can agree with me on this. The BJP is treating this like a local uprising that doesn't have a lot of national media attention behind it, that doesn't have a lot of mainstream media attention behind it. And there's not a lot of people that are putting pressure on the government to enact something. So they can just go about their business, pretend like this thing doesn't exist, and move on, right? They're, oh, it's going through the court process. It'll take 6 to 8 months. But the fact is, this is an issue that's affecting Muslim women now. And Muslim women in India are amongst one of the least educated demographics. And so the Muslim women that are going to the schools that wear the hijab for whatever reason that may be are forced to not wear it anymore because of some stupid law. And so now they're prevented from even entering an educational institution, and they're already in one of the lowest educated demographics in all of India. So it's a sad update in reality. But the fact is, there isn't a lot that can be done, except for people like me, maybe content creators, maybe more journalists, reporters, people who have higher platforms than I do. Because let's be real, I don't have a big platform. But a lot of people can just spread awareness about this, because this is happening right now in India. And a lot of people in my life have told me there's much bigger issues going on in India. Why should they care about this? This is pretty big, in my opinion. So I think it does deserve some attention to the conversation, because there's a lot of conversations being had. There's two sides to the argument, which each have their merit, like I discussed. The one side where it's violating religious freedom, and the other side where hijab is against, or hijab is a very patriarchal symbol, and it should continue to be banned. There's both sides. They both have their merit. It's fair. But the South Asian community isn't talking about this in reality. I've been looking through Reddit. I've been looking through mainstream articles. There's maybe 2 or 3 from like international news outlets outside of India that are really talking about this issue, because it's a big deal. And the saddest part is the word isn't being spread. And I think the least that someone can do is start bringing this issue to light, because it's happening. It's affecting education, and it's affecting a significant group in a state of India where they're, frankly, I mean, Bangalore is considered the IT capital of the world. And the reality is, in one of the most education centered areas of the country, because Bangalore is the IT capital of the world, which is located in Karnataka, and Karnataka is known for its IT. Really, you are pretty much excluding and making it uncomfortable for a specific group of individuals who already have had educational disadvantage within India to not get an education. And that's rough. That is rough. So I just thought I would talk about it, and I would talk about the update that Karnataka has continued to stand forth with their actions, which is kind of crazy the more and more you think about it. Okay, listen. We talked enough about hijab row. There's not much we can do. That's the update of the situation. But let's kind of transition it to a more happy mood, because there's been some crazy stuff happening in the sports world as of recently. Let's be real. March Madness is going on. The NBA is approaching the playoffs. We'll do a little playoff segment here in the next couple of weeks because my Warriors are in it. They just lost a heartbreaker tonight. But we'll be back. Hopefully, Steph, please come back. It's my Steph Curry episode. I need you to come back. Episode 30, right? But the best sports story in the last month, through March Madness, through the NFL offseason, which has been absolutely insane, through the MLB lockout, St. Peter's. St. Peter's is America's ultimate feel-good story. You know, when you watch a sports movie for the first time and you feel good because that underdog team, the Mighty Ducks, Coach Carter's Richmond High School, whoever it is, scored that game-winning bucket to send the team to the state championship, or whatever the hell the storyline is of the sports movie. St. Peter's is the best freaking story in sports. It is awesome. I am so surprised that this even happened. I mean, this is crazy. So for those of you that don't know, like, there's probably a lot of people who are like, St. Peter's are you talking about like the Roman Catholic Church? What the hell are you on? Okay, let's talk about it, right? So I talked about favorite sports movies coming to life and how St. Peter's is the actual representation of that. I mean, here's the thing. St. Peter's, for those of you that don't know, is the 15th St. Peter's, for those of you that don't know, is a low-tier Division I basketball program located in Jersey City. Okay? They're kind of a low-tier program. They've had a lot of disasters strike their program. They don't win a lot of games. They're not known for their basketball program in particular. When you talk about Division I basketball, you talk about 5 schools. You talk about probably Arizona, Baylor right now, North Carolina, Duke, and Kentucky, right? Those are the 5 that come to mind for me. And there's obviously Gonzaga's in there. There's obviously a few more powerhouse schools. St. Peter's is not one of those powerhouse schools. St. Peter's is the type of school where the Division I athletes that go there to play D1 for 4 years, collect their degree because they're getting a full ride, and then go out into the corporate world and work a normal job while just, as an afterthought on their resume, writing D1 basketball player for 4 years. That is who the players at St. Peter's are. They're not the biggest known. They're not being recruited by the NBA. It's not really a big program. And so this small program somehow found themselves on the national stage of the March Madness tournament, and they found a way to beat Kentucky, which is about powerhouse schools, one of the 5 powerhouse schools that I mentioned in college basketball. And then they found a way to beat another good team in Murray State. And then they found another way to beat Purdue. And they took out 2 basketball powerhouses to get to be in the final 8 teams within the tournament. And yes, they lost to North Carolina. But let's get into their story, because this isn't your normal Cinderella story, right? In March, when it comes to the March Madness basketball tournament, it's single elimination. So you tend to get a lot of upsets, and you tend to get a lot of small schools that suddenly get burst into the spotlight for, playing well and beating a team that they weren't expected to beat, right? And it's awesome. America loves that. America loves the underdog story. The world loves underdogs. It's the truth. But St. Peter's, their story really starts before the NCAA tournament, because they were losing a bunch of games in about December, and they had to win about, I think it was like 8 or 9 straight games to even make the NCAA tournament as that 15 seed. So to make it to where they are, they had to win a bunch of win a bunch of games to only get drawn against Kentucky, who is one of the basketball powerhouses. And the thing about St. Peter's is that they aren't like your Division I school. A lot of Division I schools, a lot of D1 basketball programs get a lot of resources, right? They have a bunch of like boosters who provide them with like great facilities, great basketballs, like good practice times, better athletic dorms. Like the athletes are treated like kings. You go to any big Division I school campus, the athletes are treated like literal kings. Their dorms are like apartments. They get special food. They get special privileges on campus. They're not like real students in a lot of the powerhouse schools, because a lot of these guys are just this college experience is a one-stop shop before they go to the league. And for St. Peter's, that's not the case. The guys who play for St. Peter's play there for 4 years because they just love basketball that much. They just love the sport. And most of the kids that commit to schools like St. Peter's, they're the kids that would, like, even if they weren't D1, they'd probably be hooping at the YMCA and just having fun. Like, that's the type of people that they are. It's high character individuals that just want to play basketball for playing basketball. It's not for the money. It's not for the fame. It's not for any power or name brand that you may get out of an SEC school. It's nothing. It's nothing like that. And the resources that the program of St. Peter's had. Let's talk about the resources they had, because they didn't have very many. It's probably equivalent to that of an underfunded high school. Their gym used to have like a leaky floor. There would be the whole athletic facilities, like they all shared a locker room. So like the visiting team would be like changing into their basketball uniforms, and they'd just see like the swimmers walk out of the practice pool into the locker room to take showers. Like, it's crazy. They were underfunded as hell. And let's put this in a money perspective, right? So one of the powerhouse schools that I talked about earlier was Kentucky, the school that St. Peter's beat in the first round. Their head coach is named John Calipari. He's known as one of the best head coaches in all of college basketball. John Calipari is the head coach of Kentucky, and he makes $8.5 million a year. $8.5 million a year. That's a crazy amount of money, right? The whole St. Peter's basketball team, the whole team. So like how much, everybody's coaches, players, assistants, whatever. all the expenses that they went through this year, all the expenses like travel, food, whatever expenses come with running a Division I college basketball team, $1.5 million. So $1.5 million is what the whole team spent. Is what was spent on the whole team. I'm talking like paying coaches, paying assistants, you know, equipment, facilities, travel, whatever. 1.5 million, which is $7 million less than just the head coach of Kentucky's salary per year. St. Peter's had a bunch of unpaid assistants too. In the past, they've had a bunch of unpaid assistants who were guys who basically worked 50, 60 hours a week, helping with the head coach and like helping design plays and all of these things. And they didn't even get free college classes because a lot of these unpaid assistants, like they pay you in education, but they didn't even get the free graduate degree. They were just helping out for 40 to 50 hours a week. And to make ends meet, they would substitute teach at the local high school and they would, you know, ref the CYO games that would go on the weekends. Like this is truly like an underdog story. In addition to all of this stuff, right? You had the unpaid assistants, the offices of the coaches were they were flooded. They were constantly flooded. Like the roof of the particular like place where it was at was either was leaky all the time, and so like when they'd walk in after like a really rainy day, like there would be like an inch of water on the floor, and apparently that was like routine for St. Peter's. Okay, like this would continue to happen. There's pictures and there's a lot of people on Twitter that have verified this who have worked for the team in the past. And the basketballs were like stolen really frequently because it's in Jersey City, and a lot of the students like would use the same facilities that the athletes would use, and they would take the basketballs and they would steal equipment from the team and all of these things. Like there's so many stuff. It's a rough time, right? Compare that to like an Alabama football program where they get their own locker room, they get their own private chefs to cook their food, right? St. Peter's is not that. But there's two names that I want to shout out for changing this program. Shaheen Holloway and Doug Eddard. We're going to talk about Doug Eddard in a second, but I want to talk about Shaheen Holloway for a second. So Shaheen Holloway is basically the coach of St. Peter's. He's the head basketball coach, and he's had the most success that St. Peter's has seen in a long time. So much so that literally today, as of like 6 hours ago, he was hired by the better Division I school in New Jersey, Seton Hall, to coach their team. Full time. So he got vultured from St. Peter's because everyone saw like what a great job he did with all the lack of resources that we discussed earlier, that he got hired at Seton Hall, which is like the college basketball school in New Jersey. So that being said, right? So the coach, like he was the coach that had the most success at St. Peter's for a long time. He built this program. He recruited all of these players. He like slowly started by like renovating the office, like renovating the gyms, making sure the facilities were good for the basketball players. And it's gotten a lot better from where it was. Their arena right now can see like it's nothing compared to like some of the bigger arenas in college basketball, but it's there. It's there. And they're slowly building it up. And so a lot of this change was spearheaded by him and the athletic director at St. Peter's as well. And one of the main ways that they've been able to kind of accelerate this process is through the recruiting process, because in college basketball, you don't pay players, right? You don't pay them anything. You don't pay them any money. Like it's nothing related to money because you can't, it's illegal. So a lot of what you have to do is recruit these players, and a lot of recruitment takes place by like visiting their houses, talking to their parents, talking to them and connecting with them. So much so that they believed that they could play there. And he was such a vital part in that because he was such an enigmatic coach that would attract the local talent. And a lot of these schools, right? I'm talking like the SEC powerhouse schools, the schools that are, you know, the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. They have the money to like fly all over the country and find the best basketball players in high school and recruit them to their teams. St. Peter's doesn't have the money to do that. St. Peter's barely had the money to like have a bus to drive 30 miles to go to New Jersey, right? So the only people, or to go within cities of New Jersey, like the only people that they could really recruit were people in their local area. So I'm talking Jersey and New York, and any other recruits that they got were like bonus. Like that was just like a cream on top of the ice cream. So, or cream, you know, that's just cream rising to the top there. So that's kind of what they were working with. You're working with dealing with a lot of athletes who are from Jersey City, who are from New York, and basically anything that you can get from your local area. And the best ones were obviously handpicked, were obviously taken away by the best schools. And so you're kind of left with the bargain bin of the quote unquote bargain bin of players. So Holloway really had to work with that. Um, and their recruiting process, basically, it's been described by like a bunch of scouts as like outworking everyone, finding all the recruits early, making sure that they were comfortable with Shaheen Holloway, and that he was able to kind of sell them St. Peter's more so than ever. But Shaheen Holloway changed the program, right? And he's at Seton Hall now. He got a big job for the reason that they recognized the immense adversities that he had to go through to even build this program to get to the Elite Eight. But let's look at the whole St. Peter's run from a player perspective, because there's this guy by the name of Doug Edert who is an absolute stud. This man is a star. He is kind of like the Cinderella, like he kind of epitomizes like what the Cinderella story is. I mean, on the surface, this kid looks like a white kid I went to high school with, right? He looks like he looks like some random, like just dude off the street in New Jersey. But this man, like before this tournament even started, in February, in January, was just probably your average Joe. He's from Nutley, New Jersey. God knows where the hell Nutley is. He's from Nutley. Okay. He went to Bergen Catholic High School. God knows where that is. And he's a criminal justice major, right? So he's just this kid who's probably like, yo, like I'm a year away from getting my criminal justice degree. Maybe I'm going to go on to law school, all of these things. And a month later, now he's the swagged out white boy that's taken everybody's heart who watches college basketball. Everybody loves this kid, Dougie Eater. Like everyone's like, damn, like, and he for St. Peter's, he was like his role on the team was like he was the sharpshooter. He was the spark plug off the bench. He would get a quick bucket here and there. And he's a consistent shooter, and he made a lot of timely buckets throughout this run that St. Peter's had all the way to the Elite Eight. And by the way, St. Peter's is the first 15 seed in NCAA history to make the Elite Eight. So that makes this run all the more improbable, right? He's one of the stars. There's a couple others on St. Peter's as well. Daryl Banks, Casey and Defo, a couple others. I don't want to forget anybody, but there are a few. But Eater is the one that's really attracted like the attention of the national media. Like this is the guy. Like he's like the Joe Burrow of St. Peter's. He's like that's kind of the perfect comparison for him. Is like he is the Joe Burrow. He's like that swagged out white kid that everybody loves. That who's got that like energy that you just attract to. He's got a certain swagger on the court. He's fun to watch. He shoots the ball, so he's flashy, like all of that stuff. He's the flashy kid that everyone likes to watch. And he's also got this really funky personality. And that was kind of revealed through a couple ESPN interviews that he did. Apparently he doesn't like eat sandwiches. He's like a super picky eater and all of these things. And that went kind of viral all over the internet before St. Peter's played their Elite Eight game. But he's someone who's like super fun to watch. I mean, his reactions on the court are great. There's like the viral picture of him like sticking his tongue out. He's got a fat mustache. Like he's just a fun. He seems like a really fun guy, and I just like it. I like his personality a lot. And I just wanted to say this personally from the bottom of my heart. After I researched this team and just like looked at everything, Doug Eater, Shaheen Holloway, and the entire St. Peter's roster is invited to come on the Changavi Show whenever they would like. I'm just saying that right now. Okay, Dougie, before you become like a big star in the NBA, I would love to have your interview. Shaheen Holloway, before you start killing it at Seton Hall, come on to the show, baby. Let's do it. Let's make some noise. Dougie Eater is absolutely invited on to the show. I loved watching him. The whole St. Peter's team. I would love to have all the boys on the show. I loved watching y'all. This is like one of the best underdog stories I've ever seen in my life. Just so fun. And I think here's the thing that endears me the most about this whole underdog story is these kids probably like go from like beating Kentucky in overtime one weekend to Tuesday morning being in Psych 103 and studying for their midterm. Like, I think it's just like the craziest underdog story ever, right? Like, these are literal college kids. They're me and you. And they're getting degrees and they're probably working to get good grades in their classes and eventually, become productive members of society, hopefully. And, they probably party. They're just normal kids. And Doug Eater is like 2 months older than me, right? He's 21. I think he's like September 2000. I'm October, so or August 2000. I'm October. I forget what it was. I've read his whole bio on St. Peter's athletic website, but he's probably studying for midterms. I mean, and I heard this story too, like when Steph was talking about his March Madness run at Davidson, because he played for a pretty small mid-major Division I school as well, and they kind of went on a little bit of a run his junior year. And before the game, like right before their Sweet 16 game or something, where they were playing Georgetown, which is like a really good school at the time, like they were all like in a hotel room, like with their clunky laptops, just like cramming for the accounting midterm that was going to happen on Monday. So it was just like the way that these underdog stories work, particularly with like these small D1 programs, because like in the big D1 programs, like everyone's all about sports, right? It's like you're literally playing professionally. You're going from school, you're going to play school to school. Like you don't really give a shit about your grades, because most of the kids at Duke and Kentucky and Arizona are really going to be there for 1 to 2 years, so they don't really care about their college degree, because they know they're going to go to the league and make $15 million. Like that doesn't matter to them. But this underdog story is the best, because these kids like actually have to care about school and all of these things. So I just find that really, really cool. I love their story. I love their vibe. I just love like how much of an underdog story it is, because it truly is that way. And I just want people to like recognize the fact that this is such a dope story. And I hope that other people recognize that too, because it's a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun just looking at them. I smile every time I talk about St. Peter's, because they're a fun team to they were a fun team to cover, and they're a fun team to look at now in retrospect. I mean, listen, there have been a lot of Cinderella teams to the NCAA March Madness tournament. And I've been alive for a few, like Florida Gulf Coast had their crazy run with Dunk City and all that. UCLA's had a couple deep runs, but they're a big school, but they've had a couple deep runs as like a low seed. Like watching low seeds make it all the way to the, later stages of the tournament is always cool. But it's but this is just, I mean, this was beyond cool. Like this was just freaking awesome to watch this whole thing go down with St. Peter's. This was great. And so shout out to all the St. Peter's kids. Y'all are invited on the show anytime you want. Please, Doug Eddard, you would make my day if you responded to this and said you wanted to be on the show. We can get on IG Live, whatever you want, bro. Just come on the show. I would love it. I would love to talk to you about being an underdog story and all that stuff. Listen, we're talking about college kids, so let's talk about a little bit more about college kids, right? Let's talk about spring break, because spring break just happened for a lot of you, or is about to happen for a lot of you. For college kids, I think spring break this is kind of the last week of spring break. A lot of people are ending it. It shouldn't be going on too much longer. I show topic about spring break last week, kind of talking about how really do college kids traditionally afford spring break vacations, because spring break's expensive, man. Going to Mexico is not cheap. There are people who in their mid-20s and their late 20s who have very stable jobs who struggle to go to Mexico. Like this is going on vacation isn't cheap. And I was just kind of like curious as to like how do most college kids really afford this stuff? The traditional narrative, I mean, you look at anything, whether that be statistics, whether you talk to people, whether you look at it through media. I mean, the traditional narrative is that college kids are too broke to afford most things. They can barely afford good food at the dining hall. So how is that they can afford these long spring break vacations? And so I did some research, and I did some number crunching and some research, and I found through my various sources that college kids use their student loan money on this stuff. I didn't even think they were using student loan money. I thought what the statistic was going to say was a lot of them just had financial assistance from their parents, which is fair. That's fine. We live in an expensive generation. I don't care. But a lot of them borrow money from student loan borrowers. I was like, how? And so I looked at the stats, and apparently, according to what was it? It was according to, I think it was a Forbes article. Yeah, according to Forbes, 56.7% of student loan borrowers used money from their loans on spring break. How? What? How is this even possible? 56.7%? Come on. Listen, I thought our generation was pretty like financially good in some sense. I thought the millennials were the ones spending. Don't tell them I said that. But like, really, 56.7. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. But I mean, listen, I get the mentality where it's like enjoy it while it lasts. Like I'm gonna go to Cabo, even if that means spending my student loan money now. But like, also it's your student loan money, bro. Like I don't know how you're gonna pay for school. I don't want you to pay interests that are high. That's just like where my brain goes. Is like, oh, like a part of them is like they're just having fun. Like let them go, have a great time. But a part of me is like, how? But also, I was like, wait, how is this possible that college kids can even spend student loan money in the first place? So here's the thing. The way it works is that student loan companies basically send the money for tuition directly to like the college and the financial aid office. So, your tuition is paid for. And a lot of times the student loan company will send just like a flat amount of money. And that could be more than the given amount that the college is asking for. And so if it's more than the given amount, which more likely times than not it is, a lot of that extra money gets sent to the student as a refund check. And so it gets deposited right into your bank account, and you're basically supposed to use that for living expenses. So no one and the student loan people don't really keep track of where the money goes once it gets shipped off to the college, because they're like, oh, we paid for tuition. Okay, on to the next. So that's kind of what's going on with that. And there's no one really knows, no one's really tracking where this money goes. So there's also this elephant in the room, right? And I get there's a lot of people out there who are like, yo, there's obviously an elephant in the room. Like the answer of how college kids afford spring break is their parents. Like, no shit. I talked about it earlier. And yes, there's definitely 100% a large majority of people that take a little bit from their parents, or a lot, I don't know, when it comes to financial assistance for their spring break trips. And that's fine, to each their own. People can do whatever they need to do. I personally, if I was going on a big fat spring break trip to Miami or Cabo, would feel extremely bad having my parents pay for me to go have fun. I think that's very sweet of them to do that. And I would just be like, bro, like I would much rather go home and spend time with them, because if they're willing to spend their hard-earned dollars on me to go have, drink alcohol and party it up, I would love to just spend time with them, because I wouldn't have fun thinking about how my parents had to work hard for their money to spend it on me. Like it doesn't add up for me. Like I would feel very guilty if a spring break trip was paid for me. That's not fair. It's not fair in my opinion. Other people can have a differing opinion that they want to enjoy their lives, and I'm totally for that. So you can go do your thing. That's totally cool with me. But personally, in my opinion, I would just feel really bad. And the numbers, I mean, the thing is, though, right? Like, parents aside, a lot of college students in these studies were found to believe that the federal incorrectly, a lot of college students were found to believe that the federal government was going to forgive their student loan debt. And that's incorrect, right? The federal government isn't going to just correct your student loan debt. Bernie Sanders didn't win the presidency, last I checked. And even if he did, it would be an incredibly difficult plan to execute and would probably take multiple years to cancel all student debt. It wouldn't happen. So that's tough if that's what you're depending on. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I don't think it'll happen for a while, at least. And a lot of studies have also said student loan money, that student refund check that gets deposited into people's accounts, oftentimes goes to alcohol and drugs, which, I mean, you're in college, so go live your life. I have no problem. You drink some alcohol, smoke some weed, that's cool. But I guess there is solutions in place as well, right? Because there are very strict borrowing limits for undergrads in particular, which is great. Student loans, though, I mean, they're being abused. Look at this, right? I mean, I'm pointing out numbers of kids that are abusing their student loan money and, spending it on spring break trips, or spending it on wine coolers, or whatever the hell kids drink these days. White Claws, right? That's probably better. And marijuana, or whatever it is you smoke. It's clear that money is being abused. Student loan money is being abused. You got to use it correctly. That's the truth. And I just hope that interest rates for these loans don't continue to screw these kids over, because 10 years down the line, when you're working a job, when you're out of college, you may be paying for that trip to Miami double, which would suck. That would be the worst. That would be awful. I wouldn't want that to happen to people. So I was thinking, I was like, damn, like I really don't want college kids to get screwed over. And I know that college kids should probably have a good time. Listen, I've been anti-college for a long period of time, but I'm not anti-college kids. I'm not anti-college students. You go to college, I have no problem. Go have fun. Go experience the full college spring break. But I was like, how can I make sure that I personally am providing a list of hacks or solutions to make sure that college kids are going on spring break, they're having fun, but they're doing it affordably and they're doing it cheaply. So here I'm going to present to you Anuj's list of hacks to prevent college students from using their student loan money on spring vacations, or even if you're getting paid by your parents to go, or if your parents are paying for your cheap benders, whatever it is, how to save your parents a little bit of money so you don't regret it as much too. So here we go. First tip I'm going to give all of you. I did a lot of research on this actually, so credit me. First tip I'm going to give all my college kids. I'm a college kid too. So college kid to another college kid, use your student ID, guys. Your student ID will be your savior. Okay. Your student ID is going to get you the plug at a lot of places. I've used it before in high school and it's worked. I've used it in college as well and it works beautifully. Make sure you use it. All you got to do is present it. You'll often get discounts on tickets at museums, tickets, public transit tickets, and some restaurants will even hit you with the discount too. So no matter where you are, just shine that student ID. Might get you a little, might save you a couple dollars here and there, which can add up. So definitely do that. If you are planning on going international for any trips within college, use Lufthansa or various airlines because a lot of airlines have student discounts. Fun fact, you just got to search up the airline and student discounts. And so one of the airlines that really has a lot of student discounts, particularly if you're going to Europe, whether it be for study abroad, whether it be for just, having a week in Barcelona, whatever it may be, check out Lufthansa and their student rates. Because if you go as a student on Lufthansa, you get a free check bag, you get discounted fares, and it also works out because they take you to a separate portal if you verify that you're a student, and you're able to book a flight that is significantly cheaper than what you would be paying if you pay through Expedia or whatever that it may be. All you need is your student email, verify you're a student, which I presume most of you would be that are listening to this content, and you would be able to get a way more discounted flight on Lufthansa, which works out. It works out. It works out. It works out. Okay, more packs. Let's go. Amtrak. So if you're too broke to afford the air, which let's be real, there's some college kids out there that are, Amtrak also gives you about 15% off on all fares, all train fares, 15% off. So if you're going down NorCal to SoCal to Florida, wherever the hell you're going, that's a long ass train ride, by the way, but whatever train ride you might take, 15% off on stuff. So even if you're going from, a certain part of California back to where you're from in another part of California, it could work out for you. That's just a good general hack to have in general for those 4 years. So definitely check that out. 15% off on Amtrak. I'm going to have to check that out. Greyhound gives 10%. That's like if you're broke to the broke and you're really doing like the full 5-day bus trip from like San Francisco to New York. Greyhound is 10% off on any fare for students as well. In addition, a lot of other sites you can check out are student travel sites in particular, which cater very specifically to students, their various adventures, their budgets, all of that stuff. So go check that out. Student Universe is one of the sites that you should check out as well. They give you like full expense paid vacations, which is awesome. I was doing a little bit of searching on their site, a lot of cheap fares, a lot of cheap flights, flexible dates, all of that stuff. So if you're trying to take a spontaneous trip and you're a student, Student Universe might be the place to go. I don't know. Also, all my study abroad kids, international student ID card is another thing that can pretty much get you discounted rates on everything throughout the world. You have to basically register through a couple of specific companies, which I don't have on me right now, but you can do the Google search real quick and find the different agencies that you can register through. Basically, you got to prove you're a student, but then you'll get the ID card. And yeah, you'll have an international student ID card, and it should be valid in a lot of various places, and it can save you a couple bucks. That's all I'm saying. Look, all I'm saying is this. I understand that you want to go on spring break, and I'm not jealous of you for going on spring break. That's great. You do your thing. But also just keep in mind, you could save a couple bucks here, save a couple bucks there. I'm just saying. Like, if you're a student, look for the deals. Just keep it in mind, bro. Don't like if you see an expensive thing, you're like, oh, it's like $200 over my budget. Don't pay student loan money, please. All my Chain Gang members, I want you to make me a promise. Look me in the eye right now. Look me in the eye. Please make me a promise. Okay. You are not going to spend student loan money on your spring break vacations, okay? I know a lot of you are college kids or fresh out of college or whatever. Please don't spend your student loan refund checks on spring break, okay? I know you may want a couple banana mamas by the pool. Just don't do it. Don't do it, please, please. I love you too much. I love you too much. I'm looking out for you. Use the sites I gave you. Use the hacks. Do a little bit of research. Maybe save a couple dollars. That's all I'm saying. Okay. That's all. I'm going to transition to our second to last topic that we have real quick. Conservatorship. What the hell is this, Anuj? What the hell is conservatorship, bro? What is going on here? So, conservatorship. You've probably heard this. Conservatorship. I don't know how to say it. Conservatorship. I should have probably looked this up. Conservatorship, for those of you that don't know, has been a very trending topic. You may have heard this with celebrities like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes. We're going to talk about both of them today. So the technical definition of conservatorship, which I had no idea this even existed until like 4 weeks ago when I saw a headline about Britney Spears, and I was like, interesting. Maybe I should do it for a show. Here we are. So the technical definition of conservatorship is basically appointing an advisor, guardian, or mentor to the person, to a person that is not stable enough mentally, and you are able to manage their, and that conservator is able to manage their finances, their medical decisions, basically make like every legal decision needed for them. And this has been a term that has been thrown around a lot because of the Britney Spears situation and a situation that's been going on with a lot of other celebrities as well. We're going to talk about Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes in particular. So if you haven't heard about what's going on with Britney Spears, which if you're not a pop culture fiend, you probably haven't. So let me educate you on what's happening. Let's go through a timeline and I'll kind of explain conservatorship and how it's, sort of affected her life and all of these things, but it'll become pretty evidently clear very quickly. So what happened? Britney Spears, way back in 2007, had some hit songs. She was financially pretty successful. She was doing really well. She was touring. She was, she had that song Toxic. Not my type, but certainly some people's types as well. And financially, she was doing great. She had a husband. She had a couple kids. She was chilling. But personally and mental health wise, she was kind of going through a rough patch, right? She had a lot of erratic behavior. She eventually was divorcing her husband at the time, and she also lost custody because of her kids because the court deemed that she wasn't mentally in the sort of space to be able to have custody of children. There was also some public incidents that raised eyebrows, so it led the case to eventually go to the court. There's a couple psychiatric hospital visits as well. Long story short, in 2008, she was admitted to psychiatric care multiple times, and that led the judges to eventually make conservatorship for Britney Spears temporary. And the conservator was her father, Jamie Spears. And eventually that conservatorship basically got made permanent as they saw that her behavior wasn't improving and her finances, legal decisions, medical decisions, all of that stuff was under her father's control. Jamie Spears was her father, basically her financial advisor, her doctor. Every single decision that he made, she had to follow because legally he had the right to do so. So the conservator basically has this major life power, has this power over major personal life choices, and it's typically used for people who've been in a lot of mental health, like who have had a lot of mental trauma or going through a really rough patch in life and need that trusted sort of guidance in their life. And Britney Spears kind of needed that. So Jamie Spears, who's her father, had power over those personal life decisions as well, because he was able to decide like when Britney can go see her kids, could Britney Spears remarry, all of that, and that's problematic. And in addition to those problems, Britney Spears' dad was also an abusive conservator, because he basically forced her to go on tour, made her take birth control, didn't let her have sex, didn't let her see guys, didn't let her get married, bugged her bedroom with cameras, which are major privacy violations. Basically, Britney Spears had no choices in her life. Every single decision was led on by her dad, and it was pretty abusive. And it even, like, according to New York Times court records, led to the point where Britney Spears couldn't even pick a color for her kitchen cabinet without having to consult her father, who was her conservator, because he had that much power. But during this time, Britney Spears, this was all going on behind the scenes and didn't really get revealed until a couple of years ago when the case went to court. But Britney Spears and the public had basically rehabilitated her image to the point where everyone was like, oh, she's back. Like, she's the golden girl again of music. She'd gone on tour a lot of times, which, we found out was forced by her father. But she had basically taken up residency in Vegas, released a bunch of songs, and she looked great publicly. But her dad and her got into this legal abusive relationship because back when Britney was going through a rough patch, he gained power and he gained control of her finances and all of her decisions, and so there was a weird power dynamic here. And back in 2019, her father started to get sick, and so he wanted to step down from the conservatorship for health reasons, and that's when this whole thing basically got brought to the court. Because they needed to decide like who was going to be the next conservator and all of these things, and eventually they picked a financial advisor who was a temporary one, and the whole thing got brought to court. A lot of evidence was brought up, and it eventually ended with Britney Spears getting her freedom. So Free Britney ended up working, and so she ended up leaving the conservatorship after about 13 years. And she can now live her own life and make her own decisions, which is great because mentally she's in a much better place and she has gone through a lot of that stuff. Britney has also gone on the record multiple times and spoken about the abuse that has taken place in the conservatorship and all of these things that have gone on. And there could potentially also be other legal repercussions with conservator abuse and all of these things that, Jamie Spears abused the privileges that he had as a conservator, and that could potentially go to court as well. So there's more legal battles to come with Jamie and Britney potentially, which I will keep you updated on if anything happens. But conservator-wise, Jamie Spears abused his privileges with Britney Spears. But then you have Amanda Bynes, who's another conservator case. Amanda Bynes was a child actress, and she was absolutely killing it. She was dominating the industry. She was huge in the 90s, and she was in a lot of movies in the 2000s as well. And her last movie that she starred in was Easy A. But similar to Britney Spears, she was going through a mental rough patch. She had a lot of problems, and there was a couple public outbursts as well, including like setting fire to her parents' driveway and all of these things. It's a lot of crazy stuff. And eventually her parents, similar to Britney, ended up taking control over her finances, her medical decisions, and kind of everything that Jamie Spears had control of as well. And Amanda was posting a lot on social media during this time because this was kind of the social media era. And she was posting a lot during this period where her parents had taken control. And she basically said that her father had like microchipped her and sexually assaulted her. A lot of strong allegations were brought to the forefront. It turns out that later, which is like right now here in 2020, 2021, when this case got brought to court, she later denied this and said that she was going through it mentally and was dealing with substance abuse in regards to alcohol and various other drugs as well. So that was going on. But her mother held control, and luckily for Amanda, her parents didn't abuse their power as conservators at all. They allowed her the chance to get better, used a lot of her money that she had gained as a child actor for her treatment and all of these things. She worked with her parents and her team, who were her conservators, to make sure that she was making financial decisions and ready to live life on her own, be independent, all of these things. It ended up working out really, really well. And so all is well. And eventually she was released from her conservatorship after both parties agreed, her parents being her conservators and her being like, yo, like I'm good to go, like I will be fine. And so it ended up working out for the two of them. And so there's two sides to the situation when it comes to all of this stuff, right? It isn't like all conservatorships are abusive, like the Britney Spears one, which is the one that mainstream media has talked about extensively, because conservatorships can also work out for the good, like what happened with Amanda Bynes. And now she's going to, have her own business and she's going to get married and all these things, which is great. But I think the solution to the conservatorship is to really avoid situations that happened with Britney. And how can we do that? You have to run extensive background checks on these people. You can't, like, even if it's a parent or a very trusted person within that person, you have to make sure that the person who is actually getting access to the money is good. Talk to relatives, talk to friends, talk to anybody you can, and any little suspect thing you get, you should question that and maybe move on to someone who is a little bit more trustworthy with the money. That's personally how I feel about this whole conservatorship situation, what the situation is, or what the solution is. But there is a variety of ways to navigate it. And I'm here to say that conservatorship can work. It worked with Amanda Bynes. I presented you a situation that worked. I presented you a situation that didn't work. So it's your decision to come up with, is conservatorship bad? Yes, they have a lot of power, and that can lead to a lot of bad situations if it ends up with the wrong people. But if it ends up with the right people, it can also be really good because they can end up putting the money where maybe you may need it as a person, and they could help you get through a rough patch in your life. I don't know. It's a lot to chew on, but honestly, I didn't really know what conservatorship was, like I said, and I just really wanted to learn something. So, because I saw it was just a term that was being thrown around like crazy in the pop culture world, and I wanted to like learn really what it meant in all aspects. And I kind of dove into both of these cases with these actresses and realized that there's a lot going on here that we probably don't even know. So, a lot of interesting stuff happening within this particular case of conservatorship. But I'm going to go through this last thing really quickly. I know we're at an hour, so I got to end the show really quickly here. But I want to talk about the biggest problem in the United States of America, in my opinion. I think there's one huge problem in America that's not getting talked about and needs to be talked about a lot more than it is. And that's the flow of information. What do I mean? What do I mean when I say there's a problem with the flow of information? Look, where information is going is suspect, and who it's coming from is even more suspect. We live in an era of fake news. We live in an era where we can call basically anything fake news and everything goes. Donald Trump made it that way. I talked about it a little bit on the after show, but I want to give you guys an argument really, really quickly, and I want you guys to tell me if I'm right or I'm stupid. I think right now in 2022, journalism is the most gate-kept industry in America, and it is a feedback loop that sticks within the same people over and over again. If you think about the way that information has flowed in America in the past, it's pretty whack, right? So mostly the way it works is there's the direct information where the information comes from, right? Government, politicians, the actual people that are being talked about within an event, et cetera, et cetera. And then there are the reporters who way back in the 1970s and the 1960s and even the 80s used to be the end result of that feedback. The reporters used to basically report what was going on and it would go right to the consumer and then we would have an opinion. But now it's turned hella whack because you have the internet. And so now you have content creators and you have podcasters who are aggregators of all of the information that the reporters provide. They take what the reporters are saying and basically say it in a much cooler and more entertaining way, like I do. Haha, so funny. And I have no problem with this because I do this. This is what I love. I love aggregating information. I love giving my opinion on it. And I love presenting you the facts. I am the third layer, but there's more layers here. So stick with me for a second. It's not just that. The fourth layer is the comment section in public opinion. In the old system of journalism, public opinion and the way the public thought was a check on reporters, right? And it wouldn't be as vocal because social media didn't exist. So, you could just have your own opinion and you'd have a discussion at the dinner table with your fellow guys and girls and, you would have your opinions on politics and you'd move on. But now you have these immediate gratifications of the comment section of public opinion. Tweets come out, this, that, and the other. Oh, this, that. I feel this way. Well, what about this? You think about this? Like blah, 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 blah. Everything is moving way too fucking fast. That's the problem, right? And within reporting, there's also a crazy power structure as well because there are senior reporters, there are correspondents, and senior reporters are the people who are more established for the most part, in all air quotes, and their opinions are valued more, whereas small-time media outlets that may put in just as much work but they have less money, so they're considered to be trashier. It's like a whole process. But is trained. And should content creators really be given the same access as reporters are? That's my main question. Because the reporters used to be the place where people would listen to stuff and be on top of stuff. But now the podcasters and the content creators have taken the attention from the reporters and are giving that. Sorry, hold on. The reporters used to be the main people, but now podcasters and content creators are taking that attention away and the public is focused on both, but they don't really know who to focus on because there's a lot of attention happening. And there's a whole thing I have about the White House and about information and the way it flows and how it's gate kept and how only 49 reporters are allowed in the White House press briefing room. But I don't have time for all of that. We'll do that on the next show. But that's all I got for today. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys like the show, feel free to like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, feel free to follow. Hit that follow button on top. If you are on Apple Podcasts, leave me a 5-star review. If you're any other podcasting platform, feel free to leave me a review as well. I appreciate y'all hanging with me here to the very end, hour and 4 minutes. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Changavi Show episode 30 is in the books. I'm Anuj Changavi. I'm signing off from the Bay Area, from my parents' house. This episode is over. And I look forward to seeing y'all soon. We'll talk a little bit more about the biggest problem in America soon. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Appreciate all of you. And I will see you. Peace.